Welcome to day 5 of our Stamp Camp Week of Webisodes 2016. It is the end of Stamp Camp, but we're coming off with a really wonderful product. These are brand new. They are called Blockwallah stamps, B-L-O-C-K-W-A-L-L-A, and they come from India.
They do, and they are hand-carved works of art, really, from rosewood, Indian rosewood, and the sales of these help impoverished women in India, and I love that.
I know, so you're going to get beautiful things and do good at the same time.
Come play with us.
Here they are. These are the 5 we've selected, and you can see that they are very thick.
They are, and that rosewood is just a real solid block of rosewood.
By the way, this is sustainable. This is not a a threatened species at all. This is very sustainable, and you can see the carving. It's very deeply done.
It is, and that makes it nice for leaving deep impressions on something. So I like that about it.
This is the exotic owl.
The exotic owl, the tiny feather, the beautiful peacock, ornate heart, and this is called India exotic.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So there they are, and there are some tricks to using them.
There are. We're going to show you, but I do want to mention, when you look at these, I think they're just beautiful works of art in themselves. I would get these and just put them on my mantle and showcase them without stamping. I do want to say that they are painted on the surface. So they have a very flat painted surface. And to wash these, you want to use warm soap and water. Each one of them has this little string on here with a little bell, if you can hear that.
And a bead.
A little bell and a bead and a nice little Blockwallah, sort of a pamphlet that tells you how to wash them, how to stamp with them.
Oh, good.
So each one of them has that feature.
Okay, so we'll scoot these aside and bring in our first project, which is this beauty.
Isn't that beautiful?
And this has been stamped with acrylic paint. So very fun.
So it is fun, and I'm going to show you how that's done. I do love that just the multiple stamping is just a beautiful background, and then just using some of the paint to paint some cardstock to layer the dazzles on. A nice look. So we're going to start with really the basic technique for stamping with the Blockwallah stamps. They are, like I said, they're very deep. So when you stamp with these, you don't want to get too much on them because it's going to go back in those recesses, and a lot of it will come out in big blobs. These are best for stamping with paint. You can stamp with other things as well, and we'll show you all that, but paint is the easiest way to get a good impression. And you have to be sort of forgiving with wooden stamps, that they are going to be kind of a rustic look when you stamp.
Sure.
You're not always going to get a perfect image.
You want to talk about the mouse pad that's underneath, because that's an important part.
And it does mention that in the paperwork that comes with it. But the mouse pad underneath is going to give something that you can push into and really get your best impression.
You know how normally your stamps, whether they're cling rubber or cling acrylic, have a kind of a cushion, and you have to provide a cushion. So a mouse pad's going to work really, really well.
Absolutely.
So you're just sponging on paint.
I am, and here's something I want you to listen to this. First, I've got the paint over here. I'm going to pull it out until there's a kind of a thin layer. I've got a sponge for picking it up like so, and now listen. You hear that? You want to be able to sort of hear the paint pick up. Not big blobs, but you have to have a little bit in excess of what you would think of.
So you're hearing a sucking motion.
Right.
Okay, let's both of us be quiet and you do it again.
Okay, I will. I'm going to do the orange. And when I don't hear it, then I pick up a little bit more paint until I do hear it. Because if you don't hear it, it's going to be too thin, it's going to dry very quickly, and you're not going to get enough paint.
I have to say, I love your colors.
On your image.
They're very fun.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
And now quickly, so that before it dries, I'm just going to place it on there, and I'm really going to put pressure and stamp. If you don't have a mouse pad, try a folded over dish towel. I'm pressing and breathing at the same time here. Pull that up. Ta-da!
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
So then you get the big enough cardstock that will cover your card, and then you can stamp. You have to put paint on this again. And do it. And the other thing is you have to get this in water or washed immediately. You also have to accept that it's going to change the color of your stamp.
Sure.
It's not going to get all of that pigment off.
Yeah, but it still is going to work. It's not going to change that.
It still works.
Okay, so you can see on this white cardstock exactly as you did it. This was done multiple times, and that creates a beautiful background.
And this is actually, I want to say, this is actually Debbie's card. Absolutely beautiful. So
to add a little flash, that is the red fireworks behind it.
Isn't that beautiful?
Really pretty.
And that was used with the dazzles too. So back part of the dazzles with the fireworks, with
Bohemian
the painted
Dreams.
paper.
Yes, we used that earlier this week. It's just
gorgeous dazzles.
And speaking of earlier this week, you did some stamping on Tuesday, and this was the Blockwallah with the shimmering paint.
With the shimmering paint.
Yeah.
So you did see me do this already earlier this week. It is I showed you just the same basic technique. It's just fun to get those images, and they are a little bit rough. You get some areas that don't stamp perfectly, others that do.
I think they're gorgeous.
Isn't it beautiful?
So the shimmering paints like this, they are an acrylic paint, so same idea. So anything that you might have is going to work beautifully.
Right. So paints work great, but so do other things.
And let's look at this. I love this idea of doing that peacock in 3 panels. We've got the feather up above.
I have to say, for some reason, it very much reminded me of the NBC peacock.
It does, doesn't
and I
it?
sort of thought of 3 panels for some reason. And but with that, we used, here, I'm going to let you say
Okay. This is the Luxe paint. And again, it is an acrylic paint. Now, some of these products, like the Luxe paint, like the Dilutions paint, we're clearing them out. So inventory is not real robust of these. However, the shimmering paints, we've got tons of it. So just wanted you to know that.
And this one, I'm going to open up just so you can see that this actually has glitter within the paint. So when I open that up, it's a glittered paint, the Luxe paint. So it's really nice for stamping, and it's just, I'm trying to get the shine on there. It's just a beautiful shine. And in the same way that you would use acrylic paints, you just use a sponge and put those paints on there, and I concentrated the blue in the center.
It's getting closer just to see.
And then the green outside of the blue, and then out on the edges I put a little of the gold.
There you go.
Isn't that fun? And I love, you can see just that little hint of metallic gold specialty paper there.
And the feathers up at the top. Little dazzles there for our happy birthday. So, and this is
it's a smaller card. It's a 5-inch card.
This is the metallic gold, and you know all about that because we show it to you. So that's just a way, and really nice. And doing some of the distressed inks and swirling those around the edges.
Squeezed lemonade and peacock feathers, two of my favorites for these. And I like mixing them together to get that green, and it really goes with it well.
Then you only need 2 of them too.
Right.
Okay, so paint we've kind of talked about several different types.
Right.
But what about regular stamping? You know, doing Versamark and embossing powder.
Right. I found that it works. It doesn't give you as clean of an image as paint does.
We'll get in close to see that.
So it's going to be a little bit more of a grainy effect, but I personally think that's great. I think that's sort of a rustic effect.
That's pretty.
And that's just fun. I love
I liked
that.
how the embossing powders were mixed.
Right, so that's really simple to do, and I had something to, oh, there we go, it's black, so I couldn't.
Okay, scoot over.
Here is the mouse pad, and I have black cardstock on here. I have my ornate heart, and you see the paint is not on here quite as much anymore because I've used it several times. So it doesn't look like that nice painted, you know, brand new look anymore. And I have 2 embossing powders. I have the metallic silver, and I have the fluorescent tickled pink, which is kind of fun. It's either the tickle, yeah, that's right, the tickle pink. And I've got Versamark. So with this one, I'm just going to use the Versamark, and I'm going to go over that.
Same thing with your mouse pad, always using that.
Right, I'm going to be stamping on that. I get this inked up, and I don't wait. I go ahead and make that stamp as quickly, and I really press in and try to feel that it's pressing into the mouse pad or to your folded towel, whatever you're going to be using. And there it is. And now I'm going to start with, I think I started with the silver in this case. Just a little bit on the edges, and I've got papers here to put under it. So we'll start with this silver and just on the edges. And I chose opposite edges. So a little bit.
Upper right shoulder.
Right. And then
down at the point.
On the edge there. And I'm just going to tap that off. So just a little bit of silver. If it gets on your paper, you can sort of rub it off with your finger or with a brush, with a paint brush.
I'll remove that.
And then I'll do the pink. So
massive amount of pink.
Yes. So not just stamping, not just paint. You can also use embossing powder. You can use the Versamark. And this would have been great, by the way, if I had used the Perfect Pouch. That's great for using before you start doing embossing powder. It will keep it from being all around the edge like this. So then you're just going to heat it to set.
Gonna heat it?
I can if you like.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll get out my heat gun and start going on that. And it's such a beautiful look when I love that shine on black. So you get the silver, you get all of that stuff around the edges. Want you to know, normally I would take the time to remove that because I don't want that on my project.
And this is the newest heat gun. It is a more silent one.
Right, it's the Ranger Heated craft tool.
And it doesn't blow the embossing powder around.
Right.
It just does a really nice job.
And it's really good for those embossing powders that just sort of sit on the top and you end up having to go underneath to heat so that it doesn't blow everywhere.
So you don't have to go underneath anymore.
There we go.
So very
so
pretty.
That it's got that shine.
And here it is when trimmed out. Now, I want to also point out that this is the new technique that we have with the butterflies. So taking 3 of them, folding them each in half, and attaching them to each other.
And I think we just showed that on a recent New Dazzles webisode.
I think so.
Be sure and go back and check that out.
So this is using the silver jewel. And also, this is using the card greetings, so that those are just working really nicely.
We're using them on everything, those card greetings. They're so much fun.
And I just showed you the gold metallic. Well, the silver metallic is the matte, and you can see it right there as well as right there. It really is a nice echo of the silver embossing powder and the silver butterflies.
Right.
And then the black there too. So, and then again the glitter velvet ribbon that doesn't wiggle off, so that's very nice. And now we've got another technique. Okay, this is quite gorgeous.
And a striking look.
Yes.
This is really fun. This is also using Versamark and embossing powder, but a little bit differently because you're going to be pressing into heated, melted embossing powder.
Can you see the
gorgeous?
depth that's there?
And that's a characteristic of the stamps, that they're deep enough that they're going to make a nice impression. As long as you get it hot enough, it's going to really stamp into embossing powder like that.
Really striking.
And that's using the Wow Ultra High embossing powder. So this is, when we open this up and take a look at it, it comes in these nice big jars. It's really coarse. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So it's not a ultra fine embossing powder. It's very coarse, and so it allows you to get pretty high, pretty thick embossing really quickly.
Right, just like that.
Right.
Very much.
And I stamped into that with the cotton white StazOn. So, okay, I'm going to get that set up over here. Let me pull this in.
You want me to get that ready?
Yeah, you hold on to that, and here is the stamp. And what before you start getting that ready, let me show you what I did. I took white cardstock, I took Versamark, and I swiped it in an area. Well, first I sort of stamped it down here in about the bottom 2/3 of the cardstock, and then I swiped it, make sure it was really on there. And then I applied the Ultra High embossing powder in a pretty good layer. This is sort of going to go everywhere. Put it on there, shake it off, make sure you've got a nice coating like so.
And you really do want those pieces going off the edge,
right,
because you can see what a fun look that creates.
It
so,
does.
Yeah.
You know, you can also sort of manipulate that if you felt like it's too high. I'll go in with my fingers and sort of round the edges if I want to, really make it look like what you want. And then you start heating this with the heat tool. It does take a while. It's nice that it doesn't blow it everywhere, but it takes a while to heat. So I've got one that's already heated.
Okay.
So we're going to start with that. I'm going to hold on to this, and I'm going to start heating it while Paulette starts inking the image with the StazOn white, because you have to have this melty. It has to be melty and hot for the image to stamp into it. So now, when I originally, if I would have started heating the other one, I would have started from the beginning. I would have started heating this, and at some point, I would get to a point where everything was melted. Everything is nice and melty. This is getting pretty close to ready already, which is nice. Just really get that nice and inked up, and don't stop until we're ready to stamp.
Okay.
That's what I do. Sometimes I'll do that with one hand is doing this and one hand is inking this. And are you ready?
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
And really, oh, I didn't put the mouse pad underneath it.
Didn't.
Oh.
Wait, and I can't reach it for you.
It's all right. Hey, it worked
Okay.
anyway. It would have been better if I'd had the mouse pad underneath it.
It would have
pretty
been
good. It would have gotten all
deeper.
of these areas, because it would have made the
Okay.
impression. But it did push into it, and it did leave that nice white image.
Okay, so when you have the mouse pad, it's going to be a more even stamping, as you can tell.
And if you need to, you just sort of move that around until it gets all areas of that
Yeah.
stamp. But
Now,
it's just fun. It's a fun technique.
It's really striking. So, of course, this technique you can do on all of them. You can do any color. And this is also adding the peacock embossed paper. Let's get in close to that edge.
I just kind of thought
so you
that
can
was
see
perfect.
It really is.
Did you notice on the other peacock card that I used peacock feathers distressing?
I did notice that. This is also using our silver linen, which is an absolute favorite. So that's brand new.
And this is the new look of the silver linen. It's got a real texture to it. I love it. I love
really
it.
good. And then we're also using the everyday greetings, and I like that going on the edge vertically.
I do too.
That's
it's
nice.
kind of a fun look. You start looking at it and you go, where am I going to put this? It doesn't really fit. And you go, oh, it fits here.
And then on the inside, our little peacock in black is kind of resting on a silver line.
And I did emboss that, but I used the fine embossing powder so that you can really see it. Now, see, I don't automatically with these stamps go to StazOn or go to fluid chalk ink. You can, and I've tested it, and you can print with them, but they don't give you as clean of an image. If you use the Versamark, you get a little cleaner image.
Actually,
it really seems
let's
to
show
work.
a couple of those. So this is with Versamark and copper embossing powder.
I love
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yes. I'd love to add a little bit of Tim Holtz style inking around that.
Now this is with fluid chalk ink, and that's what you were talking about.
Right.
Is it's not. It's a little more distressed look.
A little more distressed, a little grainier. It still obviously works.
Yes.
So.
And this is putting it to get a watercolor look with these very intricate designs.
And I used paint for this. I spritzed the water a little bit.
So this is watercolor paper.
Watercolor paper.
You spritzed it first?
Spritzed it first, and then I put paint on the block and stamped it. If I'd got a lot more water, you'd see a lot more of this everywhere. I like that look too. That's kind of fun.
Now, scrapbookers, you can be stampers too, of course. So let me show you.
We're moving around our large
we're moving
Blockwallah stamps everywhere. This is such a cute look.
And this is something different, right? So embossing paste.
It is embossing paste, and this is translucent embossing paste combined with distress ink colors.
That's interesting.
Okay, and then you're actually going to stamp into it with the stamp. So I'm getting it set up over here while you're looking at that. Let me go ahead and pull that in now.
So we've got a strip at the top.
Right.
We've got some regular stamping around the title.
And that's just stamped with distress ink, so you can see it's a little bit more, you
distressing.
Can't see, right, a little bit more distress, but it's a fun look.
And then this technique. Okay, so
okay,
come on
so
in.
Here's my craft sheet. Here's my long strip of cardstock. I'll palette knife from the palette knife set, and this is the translucent embossing paste, meaning that when it dries it's going to be see-through. So that's kind of, you can kind of see that on that, you can sort of see through it a little bit. But we're going to change this different colors, and the way we do that, I have 3 of the Distress inks, squeezed lemonade right onto the cardstock.
Onto the craft sheet.
Onto the craft sheet.
I'm listening to you.
Thank you. Mowed lawn and bundled sage. So I just press those on and it leaves little beads of ink on the craft sheet. And then I just start adding one at a time.
And you're just doing a little bit.
Just a little bit of the embossing paste, and you mix it up. And I'm going to do this quickly. I might take a little bit more time and mix this thoroughly, but at this point I'm just sort of mix it up just a little bit.
It's like frosting.
It does. And move on to the next one. I always think of embossing paste as frosting because I used to make cakes, and so I think about it a lot. Okay, mix that up nicely. And I don't think it has to be mixed perfectly, really, because it's all going to get mixed together on your cardstock at some point. So, okay, I do have a couple of colors mixed into that's a very light green, but it's kind of a nice contrast. Okay, and then you're just going to start swiping that onto your cardstock. And the way I did it, just right in place, just swiping it in different areas. I want those different colors in different areas. Now I'll add some of the green, and I just continue until it was covered, until the colors are mixed together. I'm going to tone it down a little bit with that lighter green color that we saw there, and then I just sort of go over the whole thing. I'm wiping that off. Go over the whole thing.
Now you could do this with just one color.
You could.
I like the variegated.
Yeah, I like the marbled effect. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking off a lot of it, not all of it, but I want to leave just a very thin layer, not paper thin and not too thick, because then I get the stamp out. I might have to back up a little bit here. So it's the tiny feather stamp, and then I take the Mowed Lawn Distress
which is the
ink,
deeper color.
The deeper color, and I'm going to ink that up right on there. You notice that I removed the little string that was on here. It was sort of getting in my way with such a small stamp.
Now we don't have a mouse pad under this, but because we've got the embossing paste, does that work?
But we do. You're right. I did use one, and I'm going to put it underneath the craft sheet while I was working. Wait a minute. Back up. No, you don't.
Okay.
Because I'm not pressing in to get an ink impression. I am just lightly, I am lightly pushing this into the embossing paste and pulling it out. I don't have to apply a lot of pressure.
Because the embossing paste has got a surface to it.
Right.
And, that makes sense.
Normally I would,
what are you looking for?
In between each stamp, I would wipe this off in some way. I'm trying to wipe that off, re-ink it, twist it and go a different direction. Okay. And that's what was done. Once it dries, it's got kind of a nice translucent look to it.
And it's also got the depth. And I really appreciate seeing this on a scrapbook page, because it's flat and yet you get the beauty of it, the different look of it. Of course, you can make this into cards.
But it's an artistic look on a scrapbook page.
It's nice to see
it. It's a very nice look.
Striking and pretty easy to do. And it's nice to be able to use the inks in different ways along with the stamping.
Right.
So you can see the wider one there and the narrower one. And of course, we've got green in our photographs, so that's working. Now that title right here has been done with the design tool, and it happens to be number 7. We'll get in closer just to be able to see just that inking. And you said that it was done with Distress inks?
With Distress inks. You know, I used both of them, the Squeezed Lemonade and the Mowed Lawn. And when you do that, what I did was first I pressed it directly onto the Squeezed Lemonade pad, and then I took the edges and sort of rolled the edges of the stamp around on the Mowed Lawn, so I'd get that yellow in the middle.
Okay, so that works beautifully. So,
and using the mouse pad underneath that one for sure. So Blockwallah stamps.
Yeah, so there's a lot you can do. Actually, you can do kind of everything that you've been accustomed to doing in stamping, but you can do some other things.
And it's not just for paint. You can use some other mediums and really get some beautiful results. Or get all of them and have these beautiful collections sitting on your mantle. They're so much fun.
And know that you're helping a good, worthwhile cause.
All right.
Thank you
for being here for Stamp Camp week of Webisodes.
Yes, that's it for us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.